Hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to my channel. It's called McDuff, Kennedy's Man to Smash the CIA. And it's Friday night, 8 o'clock here on Mystery Island on the east coast of what's left of the United States. And somewhat seriously, as things are starting to look kind of difficult here. Um, yeah, right now it's going on, guys. This is not a drill. This is the real thing. And we have now got NATO in Norfolk and all of these military assets all over the place. I sure do hope that that there's uh, a a uh, a heart in the military that loves this country and it won't be misled into some adventure that would tear this country apart. But I'm I find myself having these thoughts all the time now when we see all these disasters, and the thing in Afghanistan. Part of it is to psych us out. It's not just that this happened. It's that it is such an extreme disaster, and they showed us today. If you haven't seen it, I put it up on my Twitter, but I got it from Scott Ritter on Twitter. Um, yeah, Scott Ritter, the weapons inspector from the back in the old weapons of mass destruction days with the vial of talcum powder or whatever it was, yellow, maybe yellow Kool-Aid or something, but whatever it was, it wasn't anything that was going to kill, uh, you know, people like they said it was. And so, anyway, what I'm talking about is the weapons of mass destruction that we were told were there, that were not there, of course, but it's all smoke and mirrors now. What we see in the mass media is just what they want us to see. We have to recognize they've been controlling the media for our whole lives. That's something I don't like to look at, but that's one of those blue pill, red pill things, right? Where, gosh, I don't want to think about that. I don't know. Don't tell me. Don't tell me my favorite sitcom was a psyop. Don't tell me my favorite band. Don't even go there. You know, don't tell me about those musicians. Yeah. Hmm. Sympathy for the devil, huh? Well, maybe they do have a little sympathy for the British Empire. Yeah, it's Friday night. I'm a little bit pissed off, a little bit angry at everything. I told George last night that we were um, just found out that Montgomery County, Maryland, is now going to force its county employees to get vaccinated, and we have a county employee that well, we're hoping that that doesn't ever happen in our county, but that's just 2 counties away. And the whole trend with our government, Governor Hogan, nominally a Republican, but really a deep stater, a Kabbalist, and yeah, somebody that fought against President Trump importing those Korean test kits without telling Trump about it when the whole thing was just starting. And why politicize an epidemic? Well, that's what our governor decided to do, and that brings me to my real point tonight is that we are, in fact, undergoing right now the divide and conquer, the cleavage of our country, and they're hoping that we don't see it happen until it's too late and we can't do anything about it. So that's my topic for tonight. I know it says transhumanism on my notice for the show, and that's really what it's about. And let me just cut to the chase. Here's what I think the plan is. is that somehow to get inside of us, inside of each of our bodies, some thing that they can communicate with. And in selling it to us, they're telling us about how all these wonderful things are going to be available to us, and we're going to be, it's like going to be ourselves only even better, right? But then what they don't tell us is that if I can reach out and say, hey, you door over there, you open, or if I can say, hey, refrigerator, I want you to turn on tonight at midnight, and I want you to make sure my wine is at exactly, certain degrees. Well, we can practically do that now, that Internet of Things. But here's the creepy phrase that I read today in getting ready for tonight. The phrase is this: the Internet of Bodies. Let that sink in. They, they'll have interactive stuff inside of every body. And why would why would anybody want somebody else to be able to control something inside their bodies? That's crazy. Well, so they're not going to just say, "Hey, well, they tried it, right? They tried with the RFID chips. Remember, they have, and there are a number of employers that forced the employees to get the chips. Remember? Well, they don't need the chips anymore. They figured out a better way to do it. Is that what COVID-19 is about? Why would Klaus Schwab, the president and founder of the World Economic Forum, write a book in the spring of 2020 and publish it in July of 2020 saying COVID-19 is the Great Reset, unless there's something about COVID-19 that is going to help him launch the Great Reset, right? Well, we've been talking about the Green New Deal, which is World Economic Forum. That's their big thing, right? And my friends at the Schiller Institute have published an expose on that Green New Deal, which well, I don't have it at hand right here, but I keep it close by me. It's an excellent resource for trying to teach people that, you don't want this Green New Deal. This is what this is to reduce our ability to produce energy on a national scale. And it exposes the fact that the solar and the wind alternatives are completely useless as alternatives because their efficiency is minuscule compared to either coal or nuclear and other sources. So what that really is about is a power grab to diminish the ability of the United States to produce energy and thereby to feed our people as well as to produce, good things like high tech uh, highways and instruments and airplanes and cars and all of the things that people would like to buy if we would make them. But we won't be making anything. Well, what are we going to be doing? Well, I don't think that they are clear as to exactly what we are going to be doing, but the things that we're not going to be doing, that's pretty clear. We're not going to be having any privacy. We're not going to be having the ability to just get up and go somewhere. We're not going to be able to get in a car and just drive until we get tired of driving. Won't be able to do that anymore. You won't be able to just go visit somebody on the cuff. You probably will have to do it virtually. And all of this stuff is going to be enabled by something they're going to get into our bodies, whether it's an electronic device or some way that they can use sound or light or other ways to send the messages in and out. I don't know. I haven't done that much research, and I don't think it's really necessary. I just think that we should recognize that they have been working on this technology for 100 years. Andy's off tonight. God bless him. I hope he's relaxing. He's been working so hard. Well, let's start with the World Economic Forum itself. This is their webpage. You can see right here, World Economic Forum. And the topic is human enhancement. Explore content, human enhancement. Okay. Where was I?
How are artificial intelligence, migration, and education connected? How can boosting innovation, reducing inequality, and combating corruption help us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals? In an increasingly complex world, these connections can be hard to see. Yet a systemic understanding of global issues is essential. The World Economic Forum developed strategic intelligence as a set of cutting-edge digital tools to explore, understand, and anticipate the forces driving transformations around the world.
All right, I'm sorry I didn't get the right page up there, so you couldn't see it. And that's because I'm not the professional producer like Andy is. Let me try that one more time. Let's see.
How are artificial intelligence, migration, and education
There we go.
connected? How can boosting innovation, reducing inequality, and combating corruption help us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals? In an increasingly complex world, these connections can be hard to see. Yet a systemic understanding of global issues is essential. The World Economic Forum developed strategic intelligence as a set of cutting-edge digital tools to explore, understand, and anticipate the forces driving transformations around the world. At its heart are the Forum's transformation maps. They depict and analyze the interdependencies between a wide range of topics, illustrating how developments in one area can impact others. By drawing on the collective intelligence of the Forum's networks, transformation maps explain the factors driving change across industries, economies, and global issues. For example, by disrupting every aspect of technology, the fourth industrial revolution will have a profound impact on governance and affect the scale and character of conflict. That will test the traditional role of governments, even as they confront other challenges such as the aging populations in advanced economies. Transformation maps cover more than 200 topics and are available in multiple languages. Each topic is defined by its key issues, the most strategic trends shaping that topic. Because we are not looking at topics in isolation, but instead at entire systems in transformation, we highlight how the issues depicted in one map are interdependent with other maps. The content is continuously updated by leading experts from the Forum's extensive network. It is supplemented by a machine-curated feed of the latest findings and analysis from top universities and research institutions, and is enhanced by technologies used in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and advanced network analytics. The platform also incorporates economic, social, and political data, as well as time-lapse satellite imagery, allowing you to visualize trends in areas such as sea level rise, deforestation, global trade flows, and the refugee crisis. Strategic intelligence is the World Economic Forum's most advanced knowledge resource you can use to navigate today's increasingly complex and interconnected world.
Well, that interconnected world is going to happen in what he calls the fourth industrial revolution. What is the fourth industrial revolution? Well, the fourth industrial revolution, let's see, I've got a few of them here. Here's an article I'm going to read to you by Tim Hinchcliffe. It is in The Sociable, which is a website, and this topic here is how to track and trace every person, purchase, and protein on the planet and manipulate human behavior. Transhumanism, traceability, and the Great Reset Agenda, perspective. The technological framework is laid to track and trace every person, purchase, and protein on the planet, with the potential applications of invasive technologies championed by the World Economic Forum's Great Reset Agenda. People who know they are being constantly monitored behave differently than those who don't. In today's digital world, almost every citizen is aware that their online activity is being monitored, but not everyone knows the full extent, nor are they fully conscious of how track and trace surveillance can manipulate their behavior. Authoritarianism is easier in a world of total visibility and traceability, quote unquote, from the World Economic Forum's Global Risks Report of 2019. For those in the too long didn't read that category, here are some key observations dissected in this article. First, the preamble. Tracking and tracing can be complementary to transhumanism by way of biometric sensors that can be implanted in the human body and or via synthetic biological alterations to farm and lab grown food that people eat. Did you hear that? They can get something into us just by putting it in the food that we eat. Two, the people. Tracking and tracing people in real time via smart devices, wearables, and implants can allow intimate health, geolocational, and behavioral data to flow between public and private entities, which can grant access to or restrict a person's ability to use essential goods and services. Three, the purchases. All financial transactions can be tracked and traced digitally. Central bank digital currencies, distributed ledger technology, and the power to purchase and access essential goods and services can be altered for any individual at the flick of a virtual switch. You know what that means. Four, the protein. Food grown in farms or labs can be tracked and traced along the supply chain where every ingredient that a citizen consumes can be monitored and accounted for. While biological alterations to the food source itself may have the potential to change gene function on the opposite end of the pipeline. This is where I think, when we read William Engdahl about the Terminator seeds that cause sterility. The possibilities, the ability to fundamentally alter what it means to be human, can be achieved through biological and or technological means. All data, and anonymized, compartmentalized, or otherwise, can be consolidated into a digital identity that is unique to each individual, which can give public and private entities unfettered access and insights into the mind, body, and spirit of every person on the planet, who can then be manipulated, coerced, or incentivized into changing their behavior. And I raised the issue of graphene yesterday on Twitter because I did read an article in which apparently graphene is something that they think if they get it into your brain, it can inhibit the the transmission of the fight or flight response. In other words, they might do whatever they want to, and you're not going to react because your instincts have been blocked by graphene in your brain. And that's something. And now we've all been talking about graphene showing up everywhere. Well, these things they hit my radar screen, and sometimes I pick up on them and follow them, and sometimes I don't, but somebody else does. And this is, we can't all be everywhere at once. We all have to help each other. Um, you know, None of us are George Webb, but George Webb is not going to be able to do everything that needs to be done, and he's the first to tell you that. So, we all do our part the best we can. So I think, for me, to spend tonight thinking about transhumanism is very important because if we don't, it's going to not even be on the radar screen. What do you think about the idea of somehow getting into us a communication device that will go, to up to a satellite, I suppose, or maybe to a local uh, uh, transmission office and beamed into the satellite, just like the internet. It'll just be like you're on the internet, and the wonderful side of it is just so amazing. Like if you were actually in control of it, if you were in control of it, then it'd be great. But they're not going to let you be in control of it. I mean, it's their stuff, it's their machine. You're just going to be part of the great singularity. Remember that word, the singularity from Kurzweil and them? That's what this is. It's turning us all into little parts of one great big thing. That's what the Nazis wanted to do, turn everybody into agents, parts of the state. Your body belongs to the state. On the surface, the WEF agenda appears benevolent in its desire to tackle some of the greatest challenges of our time. But the solutions it proposes via a great reset of the global economy and societal contacts have all the ingredients necessary for techno totalitarian world governance. Behind every publicly facing good intention to tackle whatever crisis of the month it decides to focus on, that is COVID-19, climate change, digital exclusion, poverty, etc., lies a framework that has the potential to lead humanity down a path of complete authoritarian control over the whole of society. Quote, citizens willingly give up some of their sovereignty and their privacy to more paternalistic states in exchange for greater safety and stability, unquote. That is from the Rockefeller Foundation's Pandemic Scenario 2010. With agendas such as the merger of humans and implantable devices, that is transhumanism, the adoption of centralized ledgers for every financial transaction, that is, digital currencies, and the application of sensors embodied in farm and lab grown proteins, parentheses, food traceability and synthetic biology. Every person, purchase, and protein on the planet can now be tracked and traced. Data pertaining to the most intimate details of our lives can be shared across interoperable public-private databases and platforms, and in combining massive biometric data with supercomputing power, humans have become fully hackable. Isn't that scary? Which means our behavior can be manipulated physically, consciously, or subconsciously to the whims of whoever controls the data. Contact tracing and vaccine passports are two recent incarnations of track and trace applications currently being used for mass surveillance and a restriction of citizen movements that threaten fundamental human rights. The Internet of Bodies, quote, might trigger breakthroughs in medical knowledge, or it might enable a surveillance state of unprecedented intrusion and consequence. That's from the Rand Corporation. What the fourth industrial revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities, quote unquote, Klaus Schwab. So I hope that gives everybody the focus, the merger of our physical, our mental, and our biological and our physical selves into a big singularity. That- That's crazy. And that's where this thing is going. That is where we're going with this. There's no doubt about it. You don't have to read this book. You can just look at enough Klaus Schwab interviews on YouTube. It's clear that the point of the Great Reset is to get us all connected digitally. Period. And now, of course, I don't have any inside knowledge. This is just a speculation of mine. But I'm speculating that there's something in this jab that is going to enable them to do exactly that. Because I cannot for the life of me understand any other reason to be sticking this into little kids or anybody that's healthy. But I'm not a doctor. I don't give medical advice. Talk to your doctor about it. But for goodness sakes, don't just let it bypass your frontal lobes. This is important, you know? This is crazy. Once we've gone there, will we ever be able to get back? Don't you love Mother Nature? It's like Mark, our great colleague, Mark Kulak over at Housatonic Live, he's just published another, report on the insanity around Lyme disease and how horrible it is for the sufferers of Lyme disease. And, Mark is talking about how their ability to handle medications is compromised. And the doctors are being pressured not to give people an exemption on account of Lyme disease. And this is an example of what I think we need to start looking at it as more likely than not that our environment, our animals, our plants, our air, our water, our soil, our entire biosphere is under attack, is being destroyed, is being poisoned, is being turned into rubble in a very slow, insidious, but relentless way. And it looks to us that don't have any insider information as though it's just that's the way life is going. There's nothing we can do about it. That's the way it is. the royal they are doing this. They are flooding this stream. They are, doing this. They are, you know what I mean by the they, the people that do things that have control. Remember what we heard H.W. Bush say, you watch history, we make it. So they're making history. And this is where I think the occult idea that we were talking about 2 nights ago comes back, is that it is a magic act to convince the people to go along with something as crazy as the fourth industrial revolution. It's a magic act. It is a sleight of hand. It is a veil, a magic veil cast in front of your eyes and those of all your family and friends. The magic veil, which tells you to accept what the media is telling you. And in this case, I think we should emphasize that the people that are, let's just simplify. There's conservatives and liberals, okay? Let's just, for the simple uh, illustration, the conservatives generally are the people that want a strong government, law and order, right? The liberals are generally the people that want fairness and justice for the oppressed and the the dispossessed, the poor, um, and social justice. So the conservatives react to the institution of a totalitarian state, the big brother idea is okay when it's being used to keep what they see as terrorists down. That the function of government is to protect us against the rabble, the ones that we will call terrorists if they try to do something, by any means necessary. In other words, they get desperate. Whereas what the government's really doing is using force to keep power with the elites and keep the people who consider themselves oppressed down, generally speaking. But the interesting side is look at the liberal side, because on the liberal side, when you see this technological big brother coming down, descending down with a virtual net over us all, so that we're all, within a, a matrix of digital control. Liberal thinks, well, this is just technology. It's the march forward. It's the way humanity is evolving, and there's nothing we can do about it, so we accept it. And this is where the big mistake is being made right now, because they don't understand that you have to look behind the curtain. You have to be a Toto and pull that curtain back to understand what the heck is behind that. Because if you don't, then you're not fulfilling your duty as a citizen. You've got to think beyond that. And that is the point that Carl Oglesby's book makes so well. And I've been emphasizing it, and I emphasize it again here tonight, is, our liberal friends are not, they're sleeping through this. They're not seeing that this technological reset, this change that's coming, is not inevitable, and it's not a good thing. It's only inevitable if they let it happen. And if they let it happen, then we're all screwed, because we're all then tied into this singularity. I mean, it's the Borg, right? Resistance is futile, right? Excuse me a second. Let's see if I can play another one for you. Here you go. Oops. Pushed the wrong button.
There. We can let that breathe for 10 minutes. All looking good. I'll come back and I'll dress them.
Do you see? These are interaction nodes. If I use this finger, I can open all the doors at work, no ID. And if I just scan this in a shop, I can pay for anything up to £1,000. And look, Dad, Mom, I've just taken your photo. Send and send. It doesn't need the sound effect. I just added that because it makes me laugh.
You promised me they wouldn't touch your eyes. Not after last time.
That was years ago. Grand's had stem cells in her eyes since then.
I can't help thinking, don't laugh. All these power cuts. Well, what would happen to you?
Nothing. What happens to you in a power cut? Nothing.
So, what about your head?
Can't feel a thing. They inserted the tiniest wafer into my brain. And, oh my God, look at the result. Synced us up. No keyboard. I don't need a keyboard ever again.
You did that by thinking.
It can't read my mind. Not yet, but the wafer tracks activity in the neural pathway and micro movements in the retina to predict what I'm thinking.
But that is reading your mind.
Let's see where everyone is. There's Aunt Rosie. She's at home. Lincoln's in school. Lee's not in school. Should be. Where is he? In the park. Don't tell Rosie. Gran's at home in the kitchen. What a surprise. Let's find Ruby. She's in a bar called the Marine Tide and she's just bought a bottle of House White for £56.
It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
56 quid for the house white.
Oh my God, how did it go, Beth? How are you? Did it work? Are you completely synced up now?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm with Mum and Dad and I've just realised you're in trouble.
You should be in college.
56 quid.
For God's sake, Bethany!
That is amazing. And a little bit like spying. What if I didn't want you tracking me?
Well, that's a good question. Can you imagine? What if your father was having an affair or something?
Okay.
You're in my contacts. That's permission according to the law.
But I still don't understand. You can run software like this on a keyboard. So why do you need the operation?
I'm trying to explain it in ways you can understand, but the connection is so much more. While we were talking, at exactly the same time, I wondered about the 80 Days of Rain, where it came from, why it was, what comes next. And I keyed into satellites just 30 seconds ago, so I can see the course of El Nino, and I can tap into pressure sensors along the Atlantic coast and barometric readings from the ships at sea. If I put all of that together, I'm there. I'm inside it, the tide, the depth of the sea, and the curl of the waves within me. And right now in Charles Street, Pasadena, 15-year-old girl called Effany Cross has written her first song and put it online. And, she's got the sweetest voice. So when I combine all of that, it's joy. In my head, it is absolute joy.
Absolute joy, huh? Yeah, that was a sales pitch from a few years back, but I thought it was worth seeing because this is what they were trying to sell us then was you're going to have a little bit of surgery, but if they can get it into us with a needle, they're going to get into us with a needle and they're not going to tell us about it. David Underdown. RoboCop has some bugs. Well, yeah, they're always going to have bugs, aren't they? I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Klaus Schwab in the context of the old world order and the new world order concept that I was talking about last night, and quoting from the work of Sean Ross on his channel, Giureh, Giureh, and the idea, just to remind you, is that historically the king or the emperor descends through the firstborn son, or the firstborn surviving son of the king. And this is the way that the monarchies of Europe always worked. Sometimes there was allowance for a female to come in, but didn't matter. If there was a male heir, then that male heir takes. And only rarely, such as Queen Victoria or Queen Elizabeth, do we end up with a female, but that's just the British. Pardon me. The issue of the Knights Templar comes from the primogeniture that was practiced and is practiced. And that is that if you're not the first son, then the other sons, they get nothing. And literally are broke. So the only way they could get ahead would be to bind together into societies. And that is what you remember, see that first Templar symbol of the two guys on one horse. And whatever else it may mean, it does mean that they were poor and they had to share the horse and ride together. And the organization of the Templars is a secret society with oaths, and they bind themselves to one another. And that makes them very, very powerful. And as the Templars were supplanted in the 1300s, they kind of reformed into the Knights of Malta. The Knights of Malta went through some different changes, but in some ways they still exist. They both, through the Catholic tradition, the sovereign military order of Malta, and the British came up with their own Knights of Malta. It's called the Knights of St. John the Hospitaliers, and of Malta and Rhodes. And that is a black-robed Knights of Malta. But these guys have united with the Catholic Knights of Malta, believe it or not, because they assert themselves to be sovereign. None of the other Catholic religious orders have the ability to claim that they're sovereigns. But the Knights of Malta are sovereign. And that comes from ancient agreements with the Pope, centuries ago, and their ability to own property, such as the island of Rhodes and then the island of Malta, and now just a little postage stamp in Rome that's their legal territory. But that gives them the right to issue passports. And as George Webb has reported, how these passports are so useful for rat lines and the people escaping on them. Well, all of that is to say that the Knights of Malta today are a good representation of that oligarchical horizontal rule, the inheritors of the Templars that have made a deal with the vertical rule people, the monarchs, so that they work together to increase their own wealth. And part of that, unfortunately, is this great reset. they are the ones that are running the Great Reset. It's a joint operation between people like Prince Charles or Prince Philip, um, the royals, with the secret societies and the religious orders of the two different flavors of Knights of Malta, but whatever other associations that I can't name, but they're all uh, the secret society types that are called upon by the monarchy when they need something done. And this is why the Templars now, you see these guys with the swords and passing out swords and making swords as a reward for good corporate leadership. And all of this stuff with swords nowadays is an indication of the symbolism that, when you see that it signifies that these people are with the horizontal rule, the secret societies, and they are in a deal with the kings, with the royals that has existed for hundreds of years, and that is that they too are working together to extract whatever they need from the rest of us. And if that means they have to reduce our population, well, they'll work together to do that, and they will accept that evil as a necessary evil in order to achieve a greater good, which is what? Let's call it sustainable development. What is sustainable development? Sustainable development is development that fits within their financial scheme. So it means sustaining their economy is what it really means. It doesn't mean like sustaining, the vegetable garden in my backyard, or making sure that I don't, grow too many tomatoes or something. It's all about sustaining the economy. And that economy, unfortunately, is so sick right now because of all of the corrupt paper that's been traded back and forth and created out of derivatives and things that we talked about with Richard Small the other night. And, by the way, the economic knowledge of the LaRouche organization is just not surpassed, and they explain it easily to us. Very highly recommend that you study their materials. Go to the LaRouchePub.com if you want to just study some random ideas, put it in the search engine. It's a great way to spend some time, and you can rely on their expertise. I think they just do a great job. Um, and really, so my point tonight is when you're talking about COVID and you're talking about, resistance to the vaccine, it's not just because we don't know what's in it, or it's not just because it hasn't been fully tested. It's also because of the desire, the the he's just bursting with desire to get this transhumanism going. And what can be driving that except for the people that are striving to keep this broken financial system going? Let's go back about maybe a year or so and remember when we were looking at Wuhan lab and we found on the marquee of the lab a great, a marker as you arrive there, a a Templar cross in green. And we found an online game which identified that same cross with a company that is really just a cover for the Travelers Insurance Company. Now, you probably know that the Travelers Insurance Company used a umbrella and a red Maltese cross on the panels of the umbrella. The insurance companies are in the background with the actuaries. crunching numbers and thinking, you know, okay, how many um, how many seafarers pensions do we have to pay in 2025? How many teachers are going to retire? Let's see, what are we going to do about this union that has spent all their money, and we're going to have to go through some litigation? And what are we going to do about all these people in the old folks' homes? And you know, how long do we have to keep paying their medical bills for them? And when are we, going to finally know that we've got a sustainable insurance company? Well, the way to do that, of course, is to get every single person on the planet into a digital program and then learn as much as you can about them, about their lifestyle, and try to predict, things that are the actuary's dream to say, well, okay, this person is clearly not going to make it past 50, whereas somebody else, well, this person's going to live to 100 if we don't do something about it. So, let's put something in his. Anyway, that's a cynical way of saying eugenics. I've been working on eugenics here for over a year, and it keeps coming back to eugenics because that's what we're talking about here. And the easiest way to do it, to me, is that the people that don't sign up or take the jab or do the other things, whatever it is, maybe all you have to do is eat some GMO corn at this point, and they've got you. I don't know. Sounds like it from what we read. But the point is, if you are not going to go along with this, then you become expendable. So that's what I think the whole country, the whole planet needs to think about is are we really going to do that to the most to suppose that it came down to maybe 20% of humanity said, no, I'm not going to accept the transhumanist solution, whatever it is. I don't want it. Well, the people that run the economy are going to say, well, you guys are just useless eaters then. You don't deserve any food. And that brings us right back to the whole philosophy behind the Templars, the whole philosophy behind the British Empire, which has combined the hereditary monarchy with the horizontal oligarchy to create the semblance of universal power over all the rest of us, even though all of them put together are probably not more than 1% of the population. But because of their entrenched wealth that they've had for millennia, and I do trace it goes back, to the Roman Empire and before that this incredible pile of capital makes them able to lend money without any end to it and create a Rockefeller, create a Carnegie for their use. They didn't create these railroad systems to benefit the average American person. No, they created these railroad systems to get their goods from one side of the country to the other as fast as possible and make a big profit. And that's where we are right now, is that they're looking to continue their system of profiting off of massive transportation, massive concentration of capital, and taking everything that they can from the rest of us, diluting the value of our money. What a horrible thing that's been. I mean, from the time that I was born to now, what's a dime worth? I mean, you don't even want to bother. If you saw a dime on the street right now, you might not even bother to bend over and pick it up. Whereas when I was a kid, I mean, it was not only was it money, but it was silver. It was beautiful. It was, and you had your Liberty dimes and your Eisenhower. Anyway, I mean Roosevelt dimes. Yeah. So that's what I think I really wanted to say tonight is, and thanks for being here with me to just share my very deep concern that we need to think about transhumanism as possibly the real goal behind all of this stuff, and how we can't just let it happen. We have to talk about it. We have to share our thoughts with our friends. Even if they would like to go along with the program, they don't see the dark side of it. They think, oh, they'll be like that young woman in the hospital bed saying, "Ah, I can see thousands of things at once now, and everything. It just makes me so happy." No, no, that's nonsense. What you're looking at is a control system that is a nightmare for anybody that that is used to the idea of freedom. And with that, I wish you a happy weekend. I'll see you on Monday, and keep supporting George Webb and his work. Get over to Neighborhood News Studio. Now's the time to support them. Now they need you to help with all their expenses and to spread the word. Get a copy of Corona 911 and George's latest bundles. I'll let him describe it to you. All right. Have a good night.